As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, a profound shift in global power is underway. The old order, dominated for decades by the West, is giving way to a new reality. At the heart of this transformation lies Asia, a continent buzzing with energy, ambition, and economic dynamism. Two giants stand at the forefront of this historic pivot: China, India. For years, the world watched as China experienced an economic miracle without precedent, lifting hundreds of millions out of poverty and building cities that seemed to touch the sky. It became the world's factory, a hub of manufacturing and trade that reshaped global supply chains and economic dependencies. However, the story of the 21st century is not a simple one. While China has been the protagonist of the last 3 decades, another giant has been quietly awakening. India, a nation of immense diversity and democratic tradition, is now stepping onto the world stage with newfound confidence and vigor. Its economy is growing at a blistering pace, its technological sector is buzzing with innovation, and its massive youthful population represents a demographic potential that few other nations can claim. The question is no longer simply about China's rise, but about this emerging rivalry. This is not a traditional Cold War-style confrontation defined by rigid ideologies and military blocs. Instead, it is a great game of influence, economic prowess, and strategic positioning. It is a competition being played out in boardrooms, laboratories, and diplomatic chambers across the globe. China, with its centralized, state-driven model, offers a path of rapid, top-down development. The contest between these two Asian titans will not just determine their own futures. It will fundamentally shape the geopolitical and economic landscape for generations to come. To understand China's position today, one must appreciate the sheer scale and speed of its transformation. Over the past 4 decades, China has orchestrated an economic expansion that has no parallel in human history. It has transitioned from a largely agrarian, impoverished society into the world's second-largest economy, a manufacturing powerhouse that produces everything from consumer electronics to heavy machinery. This ascent was built on a foundation of strategic state planning, massive investment in infrastructure, and an almost limitless supply of disciplined labor. The results are visible to anyone who visits the country. Gleaming skyscrapers, futuristic airports, and the world's largest network of high-speed railways that connect its sprawling megacities. This economic might is complemented by a determined push for technological supremacy. Beijing has made it a national priority to lead in critical fields of the future, such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, 5th-generation telecommunications, and renewable energy. Companies like Huawei, Tencent, and Alibaba are no longer just Chinese giants, they are global technology leaders that compete directly with their counterparts in Silicon Valley. The government's Made in China 2025 initiative is a clear blueprint for shifting the country from a low-cost manufacturer to a high-tech innovator. Beyond its economic and technological muscle, China has projected its power globally through ambitious foreign policy initiatives. The most significant of these is the Belt and Road Initiative, a colossal infrastructure project that aims to create a modern-day Silk Road, connecting Asia, Africa, and Europe through a network of ports, railways, and pipelines. This combination of economic scale, technological ambition, and strategic global outreach has cemented China's status as a formidable global power. For all its impressive strengths, China is facing profound, deeply rooted challenges that could impede its rise to undisputed global leadership. Perhaps the most daunting is a demographic time bomb. Decades of the one-child policy created a rapidly aging society. China could get old before it gets rich per capita. Workforce shrinking, retirees soaring, strain on social security, strain on healthcare systems. Fewer workers supporting more elders is a drag on growth. Another major crack is debt. Debt fueled China's miracle. Local government borrowing, corporate borrowing, relentless borrowing to fund infrastructure and expansion of industrial capacity. Much now underutilized, China's debt to GDP is among the highest. A mountain of debt weakens the financial system. Real estate crisis, Evergrande and halted projects. A financial crisis could derail growth and fuel social unrest. China's state-led model shows diminishing returns. Top-down control stifles bottom-up innovation. Xi's crackdown on the private tech sector. A climate of uncertainty and fear for companies. Once engines of innovation are reined in, this could hobble China at the cutting edge. Heavy-handed governance risks, choking creativity and risk-taking. Finally, assertive foreign policy and authoritarian governance have provoked international backlash. South China Sea confrontations, Xinjiang human rights concerns, crackdown on freedoms in Hong Kong. These have alienated Western democracies. That has helped form counterbalancing alliances like the Quad. Global firms are de-risking supply chains, moving production away from China and shifting investment. While China grapples with these internal headwinds, India is emerging as a compelling alternative, a rising power whose moment may have finally arrived. For years, India's potential was spoken of in future tense, a story of what could be. Today, that potential is rapidly turning into reality. India is now the world's fastest-growing major economy, having recently surpassed the United Kingdom to become the fifth largest. This growth is driven by deep structural reforms, a burgeoning domestic market, and increasing integration into the global economy. The Make in India initiative is successfully attracting foreign investment, with companies diversifying manufacturing away from China. Perhaps India's single greatest asset in the long-term competition with China is its demography. While China is aging, India is home to one of the youngest populations on Earth. More than half of its 1.4 billion people are under the age of 25. The median age is just 28, compared to 39 in China. This creates what economists call a demographic dividend, a massive and growing workforce that can power economic growth for decades to come. This youthful population provides a vast pool of labor for manufacturing and for services. It also constitutes an enormous and aspirational consumer market that will drive domestic demand and attract global businesses. This demographic advantage is not just about numbers, it's also about human capital. India produces millions of new graduates each year. Engineers, doctors, scientists, an English-speaking, technically skilled workforce has made India the world's back office. IT services, business process outsourcing, research and development. Now this talent pool is moving up the value chain, driving innovation, software development, pharmaceuticals, space technology. The Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO for example, has achieved remarkable feats. Successful Mars and lunar missions on a fraction of the budget of other space agencies. This showcases Indian ingenuity and frugal engineering. Of course, this demographic dividend is not guaranteed. The great challenge for India is to create enough quality jobs to absorb the millions entering the workforce each year. This requires significant investment in education, vocational training, and, most critically, infrastructure. India is just entering its demographic sweet spot, a window of opportunity that could last for another 2 to 3 decades. In the intricate dance of 21st century geopolitics, India is pursuing a strategy that stands in sharp contrast to China's more transactional and often coercive approach. Instead of creating dependencies, India is focused on building a web of mutually beneficial partnerships with a diverse range of countries. Rooted in its long-standing policy of strategic autonomy, New Delhi avoids rigid alliances that would limit its flexibility. Instead, it engages in issue-based coalitions, working with different partners on different challenges. This allows India to maintain good relations with countries across the political spectrum: United States, Russia, Iran, Israel, a diplomatic balancing act that few other major powers can manage. A cornerstone of this strategy is India's deepening relationship with the United States and other Western democracies. As concerns about China's rise have grown, Washington, Tokyo, Canberra have come to see India as a critical counterweight in the Indo-Pacific. This alignment has given rise to the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or the Quad. While not a formal military alliance, the Quad facilitates cooperation on maritime security, technological development, regional infrastructure, creating a democratic bulwark against Chinese assertiveness. Simultaneously, India is actively strengthening its ties with its neighbors and across the developing world. Neighborhood first, act east. India is investing in connectivity and development projects in South and Southeast Asia, offering an alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative. It is a leading voice for the Global South, championing the interests of developing nations in international forums like the G20. During the COVID-19 pandemic, India's Vaccine Maitri, or Vaccine Friendship Initiative, which supplied millions of vaccines to countries around the world, was a powerful demonstration of its capacity and willingness to act as a responsible global stakeholder, enhancing its soft power and goodwill. When we place India and China side by side, we see a fascinating study in contrasts: the dragon and the elephant, each with distinct strengths and vulnerabilities. China is the established heavyweight, the powerhouse of the present. Its economy is roughly 5 times the size of India's. Its infrastructure is light years ahead, a testament to decades of centralized planning and massive state investment. Its military is larger, better funded, and more technologically advanced. In the race to dominate technologies of the future, artificial intelligence, 5G, China is currently in the lead, having made strategic national investments to secure an early advantage. Its top-down political system allows for swift, decisive action on a grand scale. India, on the other hand, is the challenger, a rising power whose greatest strengths lie in its future potential. Its primary advantage is demographic, a young, growing workforce that will fuel its economy for decades while China's shrinks. Its economic growth rate is now consistently higher than China's. It starts from a smaller base, but the power of compounding growth is formidable over time. India's innovation ecosystem, while smaller overall, is organic, chaotic, and arguably more creative, driven by private sector entrepreneurship rather than state directives. Its democratic system, though slower, fosters resilience and aligns it naturally with a powerful bloc of Western nations wary of Chinese authoritarianism. The fundamental difference in their models is crucial. China's state capitalist model has proven effective at mobilization, building things, scaling production, executing grand projects. However, it is less effective at fostering genuine bottom-up innovation, vulnerable to misallocation of capital and the accumulation of massive debt. India's market-driven democratic model is messier and less efficient at mobilization, yet, this very messiness allows for greater flexibility, creativity, and self-correction, strengths that become more important as an economy matures. Looking ahead, the outcome of this great Asian competition will likely hinge on 3 critical factors: innovation, demography, global alignment. The first, and perhaps most important, is the race for innovation. The 21st century economy will be dominated by those who lead in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, clean energy, and other frontier technologies. China has poured immense state resources into these sectors, aiming for self-sufficiency and global leadership. However, true breakthrough innovation often thrives in environments of freedom, open inquiry, and intellectual risk-taking, qualities more associated with open societies than with top-down authoritarian systems. The second deciding factor is demography, the slow-moving but relentless force that will shape the destinies of both nations. China is facing a demographic cliff. Its shrinking workforce and rapidly aging population will act as a powerful brake on its economic growth and create immense social welfare challenges. India, by contrast, is set to enjoy its demographic dividend for at least another generation. The key for India will be its ability to educate and employ its massive youth population. If it succeeds, this demographic tailwind could provide the sustained momentum needed to close the economic gap with China. If it fails, its dividend could turn into a demographic disaster, fueling social unrest and instability. The third critical factor is global alignment. No nation can dominate the 21st century alone. The ability to build and maintain strong international partnerships will be crucial. China's transactional and often aggressive foreign policy has won it clients but few genuine friends. Its rise has triggered a counterbalancing coalition of democratic powers, with India playing an increasingly central role. India's democratic identity and its strategy of multi-alignment make it a more palatable and trusted partner for many countries. The extent to which the world coalesces to support a democratic rules-based order versus an authoritarian one will profoundly influence the relative power and influence of New Delhi and Beijing. Ultimately, the future may not be decided by strengths alone, but by how each country manages its weaknesses. We are not witnessing a simple race where one nation will cross a finish line and be declared the winner. Instead, we are seeing the emergence of a more complex and multipolar world where power is more diffuse and contested. The great game has just begun, and its outcome will determine the character of the world for all of us.